Bienvenue tout le monde. I will do it in English, okay? Because even if everybody speaks French, it's not everybody. Okay. All right. Let me do. So I'm introducing myself. I'm Olivier Maes. I'm Belgian from Antwerp, and I'm the co-founder of Baserow. The real founder is over there. That's Bram. Bram Livius. Bram is from the Netherlands, and he actually created the open source project for Baserow. Okay, so I want to, maybe before I start, just a quick show of hands. Who knows about Airtable? Okay, who actually uses Airtable? Okay, perfect. Okay, most of you. So maybe before I start, I actually want to let Bram tell you why he started an open source project to counter Airtable. So Bram, you want to say a few words?
Sure. Well, so my background is in software engineering, but I kind of started Baserow as a side project. After I learned about Airtable for the first time, I saw a lot of chatter in communities about people requesting an open source or self-hosted alternative to Airtable. So there wasn't any grand plan or anything, but it's just a side project that I started in the evenings and in the weekends, and it kind of grew to a venture-backed startup with the team where we are at now. We have big plans, of course, so we do have a grand plan right now, but that's actually honestly how we got started.
Yeah, so it's a real down in the roots open source project, and it's actually, so I met Bram in April this year, and then decided to join forces, and now we're building a real company around it. So what I'm going to do here, I will not do a deep demo, because then if you think, hey, this is interesting, then we can do a big deep demo on the booth, which is just there, right? But I want to tell you a little bit where we are. What is the reason we exist, and let you ask me lots of challenging questions. Okay? So just some numbers. So we are now more than 22,000 signups. Okay, so the way it works, in open source, you put out a project, right, and then you open up a community on Discord, what we did, and some other mediums, and then people sign up for free, they test it, they tell you if they like it, they give us the feedback on the features, and then you start to see the numbers increasing. So at the end of last year, we got 5,000 signups. At the end of last year, we have 10,000 signups, and then in the last 6 months, we reached 20,000, and then over the summer, another couple of thousand. So probably we'll reach 30,000, hopefully by the end of the year, and then we'll see next year if we can do from 30 maybe to 100,000. We have now some funding, right? So at the end of last year, we raised VC funding, 5 million. It's a mix of seed and VC funding. That means that now we have built a second team of developers, which I'll tell you a little more what they are building. We have money for the support organization, customer success, all that nice stuff, and a couple of salespeople. We have someone from France as well, who is based here in Paris, who will help that. We are a company. Who knows GitLab? You know the GitLab? Okay. So we really like GitLab. We like the way they run the company. So fully remote, right? So we have no offices. We eat our own dog food. So we eat Baserow. We use Notion. We use a lot of the tools that you see here in this conference, and we're able to attract talent from different countries, and we believe that's the way people want to work. So we will not have offices. So if you ask, where's the Paris office or where's the French office, it's nowhere. It's somewhere in wherever we're going to be in that day, but we have teams here, and it's open source. Okay. So maybe a little bit, I think for the Airtable people, you will know that, right? But it's important just to show you a little bit. We made an industry map, and there's a nice blog on our website around that about the different players, because I think it can be quite overwhelming on who is actually strong in which area and where does it help me. We've built this industry map and to try to help you navigate the whole spectrum of Nocode. And so you have your mobile players, you have your databases, right, which is the basis of every application. So we play in that field right now. You can see who we compete with. We put a little green dot of the open source players, right? Because today, if you walk through this conference, there's not many open source players, right? It's really a pity, I think, in the no-code space that everything is proprietary. So hopefully that will change, but we will always be open source, also with other modules that we will develop. You can see the automation players. So a lot of our customers use us in combination with workflow automation players, but also with web apps and website builders, which are the front-end tools that you might want, whereby Baserow can sit at the back. And then you've got the typical e-commerce productivity tool based. So like I said, not a lot of open source, right? But you now have a good feeling of where we play. Here's the curve, right? So it's good. Everybody wants that type of curve. So let's see if it's going to continue to go steeper and steeper. Actually, the reason we're here in France also is because we have a lot of interest from France, right? Lots of French signups, education, also public sector, but also a lot of different companies whereby the main reason is actually that they have an issue with GDPR compliance, they have an issue with where the data is hosted. Right? So what we said is, look, Airtable, we like Airtable. You know, I have all the respect for this company. It's amazing what they've built. But I think there's a big trick that they're missing, which is to go into the industry, to go into the big companies, to go into areas whereby data sensitivity is big. There's no self-hosting alternative, right? So a lot of companies, and if you are a company who's doing projects for your customers, you will have a new tool to present. You say, look, we actually have something which gives you the security that the data is in your data center, or the data is with your service provider, or it is within France or Switzerland or whatever it needs to be. But at the same time, you have your user interface that you know, right? And the user interface is the one from Airtable. The user interface is something that is as easy to use as Excel. So I think we have a card to play. One, because it's open source, because the fact that it's open source offers other opportunities, right? You know how a lot of companies want open source first, they want to try it, they want to use it, and if it proves value, then they will ask for support or for some specific features. So they're not going to buy straight ahead. They don't want to have freemium neither. You want to use it, implement your use case, show the value, and then you buy if you need it, right? And or maybe you stay a free user for all the life of the usage. So for us, I tried to capture the type of users that we have seen so far. Okay, so obviously, program management is a big play, right? It's the same profile, I would say, as Airtable users. It's when you have transversal needs between teams, data which is spread out across different teams, and you want to reconcile, people want to structure the information, you want to collaborate around the information, then you're typically like in a project management office or you're a program manager, and these people actually really benefit from our technology. Innovation, I've spoken with a lot of innovation managers in this conference, so they're there to issue quick MVPs, right? Most viable product. How can you prototype? How can you build something that is actually show something very quickly, and how can you keep everybody informed? So they would typically bring the teams together, build maybe an application on the front end, build an MVP with Baserow as the data. We have also DevOps. Is anyone working like in a DevOps type of function? So I think we have more DevOps people than Airtable because it's more, you have deployment challenges, you might have networking, storage configuration you might need to do, you need to understand Docker, maybe other deployments. So the DevOps team tend to also like Baserow because it saves them a lot of time, right? You don't have to build applications or to build the database, you just focus on the API integrations, right? Even that requires some development skills, and so we have about 30% of our open source community is actually IT or DevOps. Marketing, of course, right? That's the sweet spot of a tool like ours. A lot there. We have government, right? For the reason that we mentioned. So government, I mean local municipalities. I'll show you an example. Education, right? Sometimes research, right? That's the type of organizations which say, we need data here. We have confidentiality, maybe even things like defense, right? These are sectors whereby Baserow is very production. So manufacturing, for instance, is also important. You know how sensitive it is, the data for a manufacturing plant. The worst case of it can be hacked or it can go on the street. So this is a very big area. Entrepreneurs, right? I've spoken to a lot of people with new ideas. They not per se need Baserow or versus Airtable, but they like the fact that it's open source and they can start using it until they need more functions and they can use it for free. And at least such an education. So why do they want Baserow? Why not any of the other tools? The big benefits. I'll start with open source. Okay, we discussed it. The thing with open source, you never have the vendor locking. Never, right? If we get acquired, if our prices get crazy, if our support is shitty, if whatever is not good, your customers or you have the code always, right? It's there. You can continue to work on it, and you have the time to transition to another vendor in case we mess it up, right? So, which is not the case if it's a SaaS. If it collapses, then you have to do something very quickly, and you're usually in trouble because you will have a lot of information. The other one is SaaS and on-premise, right? We discussed about that. We don't just want on-premise customers, right? If you want to use it as a SaaS, we are also offering as a SaaS. That means you can start with a SaaS, continue to a certain volume, and then when you decide, okay, it works, it does what we need. Now we are going to do a lot of integrations. You come, you do your self-hosting. You can migrate all the data, right? You don't have to rebuild any of the tables, and then you work on the integration that you have with your own tools. Another big piece is the performance. For those who use maybe other vendors, I'm not going to call it here because I'm recorded, I think. I thought about, yeah. So other vendors, I'm not saying that, but at a certain volume of rows, because the way the software works, it becomes a little bit shaky, right? You have delay, you have to wait for things. So in our case, we have another architecture of the software so that it remains very, very fast at huge volumes of data. And that's also important. If you're talking about 50,000, 100,000 rows, so big sets of data, the software will remain very fast. Interoperability, that means because it's API first, you can pretty much integrate it with any tool. We don't dictate which integration you have. We will make the life a bit easier. Bram just finished last week the integration with Make, for instance, the integration with Zapier. We work a lot with N8N as a workflow automation. We've got the gents from Stacker and from Software, right, who comes to us and says, okay, we would like to integrate with you because a lot of customers want to actually have a self-hosted database on top of our software. So that's great, right? Because give us a bit of time. We'll do integrations after integration, and it will grow. But if you know how to do API integrations, or your customers know how to do it, you can do anything with Baserow. And then I think the user experience, I would argue, it's very easy, right? It's clean. Bram likes very clean code, so we don't have all the functionality of Airtable yet. And I think we will never catch up with all the functionalities, but I don't think we want, right? We want to stay to the core of what is needed. We'll build a web builder moving forward and a workflow automation, but we want to be at par with the most important features. We can't compete with a company who is already 10 years older or 7 years older, so we will focus on what matters most. So I just want to give you a few ideas, right, for those who might not know what you can build with this. What can you do with Baserow? You can combine Baserow, for instance, with Retool or Tooljet or AppSmith, and then you can build your internal tools, right? So we will sit at the back end of these tools. If you use Bubble or Webflow or Software, so what you can do is build website, web apps, and then we will be the database sitting at the back. If you combine us with Zapier or N8N or Make or Pipedream, then basically you create your workflow automation. What's a workflow automation? It triggers an alert. It triggers maybe a purchase order into an SAP system. It triggers an action for someone to follow up on something that's happening in the database. And then I put here Flutter Flow, but there's other mobile apps vendors, right? You can build the mobile apps, and then at the back of it you can have Baserow as a database. So you can use Baserow in itself, right, as a collaboration engine on data with visualization and real-time collaboration, but you can also use it a lot as a backend of a lot of other tools. Right? So, and I think if you do big projects, you'll see that it will have to be integrated in something else. Right? There will be workflows. Bigger companies don't. It's not greenfield, right? So if you want to get the real big projects, you have to integrate. For us, the most common use cases are project data management. That's a big one, right? That's what we see people use Baserow for. It's for backend database for applications, as I mentioned. It's to do the automation and integration for workflows, and it's around collaboration, right? Because the collaboration is a big piece of the reason why you have Baserow. So I digged into the case study and tried to find two French ones, even if it's international. This one, you might not know it. Actually, I like the initiative. It's something that Jeremy within our stand actually built with his with Agora, with N8N. So basically what it is, this is an example of sort of an e-commerce platform. At the front end, you have a web page whereby if you log in, you can see in a certain area of France what are the local products I can buy there, from which shop, right? And then if you are a producer, local producer, you can go there and you can see, you can list the products that you're offering, whether it's meat, dairy, or it's vegetables, in which shop you want to put it. And if you are a shop, you can actually promote what you're selling from which vendor. So, you know, you start to see the correlation of the different pieces of data. You can go to Place Local, you can see the website. It's live. I think it was launched not so long ago. And basically, it works with forms on the front end. Right? It has Baserow, which is managed by the local municipality. They manage all of the different inputs. It has N8N for workflow automation and also for geolocalization, etc. So it's a simple example whereby basically they wanted something, they don't want a big Shopify or something like that. They just want to build it themselves, and it's integrated and it's fully managed by a couple of employees from the local municipality. This one is an also interesting one. It's a company from Lille. It's called ThinkFlow, and actually they work with. It's another example where we are sitting at the back of an application that is built by an independent software vendor. It's for manufacturing companies. So if you have a manufacturing shop floor, you might have 300 people working there, and out of these 300 people, 250 or so, they need to interact with screens. So for incidents, for quality assurance, when they start their shift, how many units were produced, you know, any of the information. It's now a touch screen like this one, and at the back end, the database is built and managed by the team leaders. So people which are managing different teams in the different shifts, but also quality assurance, continuous improvement, etc. So what we do is we provide access to the database to the management, and the workers actually only interface with the screen. Right? So what it does, if you click on the screen and you input the data, it feeds into the database of Baserow. And the database is actually hosted by the software vendor. Why? Because the manufacturing companies do not want that data to go out. Right? So they want it with the software vendor, and that software vendor is based in Lille. They've got their network of customers. They have an SLA on the security and on the SLA for the uptime. And that way, it's good for them because it's a business that they didn't have before, right? We give them a percentage on every seat that they sell of Baserow. They sell the software. You know, they have consultancy, they do the development, they do the deployment, they sell Baserow with it, and they have a recurring revenue on the support of not just the software, but also the database. So for them, it kind of doubles the revenue for that software and per customer. So, you know, if you are a software vendor and you're building applications, you know, think about that. You know, we give you the software, and then you manage it, and you can offer it as a managed service to your customers, which you cannot do with a SaaS provider, because in the past their customers used to have a direct contract with Airtable in this case, and then you have an Airtable conversation, but as a software vendor, you don't have any control of that, so you kind of your value is diminished. Can you still hear me okay? I promise I didn't have a party yesterday night. I'm just going to walk you through quickly on the different functionalities because I think you're going to be familiar. But here, we have the approach of templates or starting a database from scratch. One thing you can do, you can import the data. If your customer has an Airtable base, you can actually import from Airtable. Okay? So we'll help you with that, but you can import in different formats. And then we have about 50 templates or so you can choose from if you want to start from don't want to start from scratch. Okay? We have all of these different field types that you need, right? So it's single select, it's Boolean, it's URLs, it's multiple selects. I mean, you will probably all know that, right? Rating. So this is something that we also have done. What we want to do is that we don't want to create a user interface which is very different from Airtable, because it's proven that it works, right? Because a lot of people are using Airtable, so you will recognize that pretty easily. We have the ability to drag and drop files, which is very useful, right? So also, if you think about the previous example with PingFlow, in the form, they can upload an image from an incident, for instance, and it will immediately put the image in the database. That's another good feature. We have formulas, to make calculations. If you want to calculate the margin automatically between different, you have a cost and you have a revenue. You want to subtract these two, how much profit you make. So you make as many calculations as you want. Of course, we have the relationships. That's a big part. It's a relational database. So you'll see you're able to put relationship between all the different tables. That's the big power of it. We have the whole collaboration aspect, so that you can invite people from a certain group. And a group is usually a workspace, right? We might rebrand it to workspace because it might be more reflective, but let's say you have a team, you have one marketing team, they might have their own workspace. You might have a production team have their own workspace. You might have one school has one specific workspace. So you're gonna have to build all of these different workspaces, and then you can start inviting people. What we don't have yet, and we will have next month, is role-based access control and single sign-on, which is very important if you want to have projects whereby users have different access rights. So I think we're making a very nice way of doing it. So check it out in end of October. It will go live. We'll announce it next month. But I think we're making something really cool that is going to be enterprise ready. People can put comments, on the rows. You can add notes. So this is the whole collaboration aspect where people can interact. You can create the public link. So if you want to create the public link, just for instance to collect data, right? Say you want people to input something and to have access and to be able to input some data, but they are not users. We will not charge them. So we have a user-based pricing. But if people just need to input data into the database, and for the rest they don't interact with the database, they don't create it, for us they're free users. It's a little bit like Notion. They also have this concept of guest users. So if you think about the use case where there's maybe the manufacturing plant, out of the 300 people, probably only 25 or 30 are paying for Baserow, and the rest are free users because all they do is use it. And then we have all the different view types. Okay, so we have all the major ones. We don't have yet, if you ask, calendar, we don't have, right? And we don't have yet Gantt. Okay, so we'll continue to evolve these different views, but for now, I think we have the most important one, right? So, public forms, that's also important, right? So, if people, I don't know, if you want to have applicants and they want to apply for a job, then basically, if you have the database of all the applicants, it will feed the database. So coloring, also something that is important. It seems very obvious in Excel, but it's quite a feature to develop. And then here, this is important, right? So if every feature in Baserow you can click on the feature, and actually you will see the API display. Okay, so this is very important because everything is API first. That means that you can take the API, you can connect with any of the other tools that you want. And that's a lot more powerful than what Airtable is doing today, because it's more restricted in terms of the APIs. We want this tool just to be open to any other tool that you want. Webhooks. Everybody familiar with the concept of webhooks? Okay. So basically, you get a notification when something is changing, and then it updates. Okay. So, if you want to know a real demo, we'll do it in a minute. Okay. So come to our booth. I just want to say a little bit about the community. Right? So we have a community on Discourse. So if you say, hey, this is interesting, just sign up with your email and you register in the community, and then try out the tool, see the questions. We actually are pretty good at answering all the support questions on the community. What we love, where we can get some help is if Olga is managing the community, is about understanding your use case. For us, the most interesting, what you're doing with it. Try to help each other. Like I said, the community is growing a lot. And, we also have not just Discourse, but we are on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Reddit. So you'll get the presentation. Follow us there. It's actually the community amount has tripled in the last 6 months. So we really feel the momentum, right? So feel free to engage. Here's the type of profiles that you see. We still have quite a lot of IT specialists because of the self-hosting. And then we have a lot of managers, so people that are more product managers, program managers, etc., some entrepreneurs, etc. Here's a few quotes, right? So people are so far very optimistic, right? Sometimes we get some feedback that we are not 100% open source because some features you have to pay for it, but in our opinion, you cannot have a healthy, sustainable team if we don't have a way to make money. Right? We need a way, and our philosophy is that the bigger companies will pay for all the free uses. So you're free. If you're small, you're fine with the free version. If you need a little bit more, you're going to pay for some premium features. And then if you're a larger company, you will pay because you need support, you need role-based access control, you might need some deployment, professional services, and there you will pay more, and then that will finance the team for us to continue to offer. So, also important, we want people to join us, right? I have some important job openings, so if you know people or if you are interested yourself, we're looking for a product marketing manager, someone who understands the space. And our company is going to be a product-led growth company. So I want someone who understands the space, who understands growth hacking, who knows how to position us, who knows the competition, who knows how to write blogs, who knows how to connect with other partners in the ecosystem. So that person would work for me. Okay, so if you don't like me, don't apply because I hope to stick around for a little bit longer. But even if you only have like 1 or 2 years of experience, I don't care. But come and talk to us. We're looking for that actively. Bram is looking for a front-end developer. Okay, because one of the pieces in our roadmap is we're going to build the whole app builder. Right? That's a new module that we're developing in the next couple of months so that you can actually not just build the database, but also the application on top of it. Right? So if you know someone or if you are a front-end developer, come to see us. A developer advocate, that is someone who will work more on the integrations with other tools, also a technical profile, but that also can work on all the API work, on all the integrations with the ecosystem. And then I'm not sure there's many Germans in this room, so but if you work in a company and you know people in Germany, I would love to have someone who comes to Germany. Like I said, the company is remote only, so as long as you're in our time zone, you can go and work from anywhere, right? If you want to work in a sunny place in the summer, in the winter, then feel free. We don't have offices. I think we have good packages. We're early. We're still in the seed stage, right? So we offer stock options, and we have team offsites every 6 months. So next week we're off to Barcelona for a couple of days. So that's kind of the perks that you get, right? Pricing, I'm not going to talk. All right. I can show you. Okay, let me show you. So here's the way. You know, we have a free version on both sides. You can see the premium is actually to compete with Airtable's first entry level, right? So we're half the price, and we give twice the amount of rows. In the advanced version, we compete with the Pro version, right? It's the same price, but we have twice the amount of rows, which is also important because that's the limitation. And on the enterprise, that's going to be like case by case, right? Because every enterprise wants to be. You have direct support on these two higher tiers, right? And you have user management and role-based access control on these tiers. So the natural evolution is you start for free as long as you go, right? And then, okay, you want some features, maybe you pay a little bit, and then if it's really worth it, then you will come to talk to us for advanced rights. Okay. Time for questions. I have about 15 minutes left, so does anyone have any questions? You can ask technical questions because Ravi is going to help me. Anything that you've heard, challenge me. Yeah, right.
Big companies are paying enough to cover for the free.
Yes. So the question is, how can the big companies pay enough to cover for the small users?
How does it work, actually?
Yeah, actually, no. It's actually the way we are a team, right? So we are funded by investors, but actually, you know, we also need revenue to come in to continue to hire more developers. We can, of course, burn all the money of the VCs and then raise funds again, but that's a very tricky model. I think it was the model until 1 year ago. Right now, it goes different. Also, we need a path to profitability. So to fund the developers, to fund the sales, we need the revenue of the company. So let's say an average enterprise customer might pay 30,000 per year, right? So 50,000, right? And you multiply that by 100 customers, you have a very good revenue in order to continue to fund your organization and to offer the software for people that
Yeah, that's true. My question was in practice. Does it work for you?
It's too early because we only, you know, we could not buy Baserow until early July, right? So we just started with premium in July, but we're launching enterprise at the end of October. But if it doesn't work in practice, I have a problem. It will work. Not 100%. It will work. You don't need 1,000 customers. If you have 100 good customers, then you're already good.
But in terms of how it works in practice right now, it's like 90% of the features are available for free. And we continue developing those features, improving them, adding more to them. And we can do that with the funds of the enterprise and the premium version that we're offering, basically. That's what Olivier is getting.
And also the way the product will work is we're going to shift more and more of the mid versions, which are in premium, to free.
Yeah.
So now we have a little bit of features in premium to get some revenue. But as soon as we can, we shift these features to free, because then we might have some others that go into premium. But the idea is that we give as many features for free, keep only the enterprise that needs support and that need all this access control. But because it's a little bit like the Amazon model or the mobile operators model, we always get more internet for the same price. It's never going down. The idea is to push these features more and more. Right?